What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Ty behind the camera for yet another video here on Ty Drives. This is the 2023 Audi A5 Sportback in the Prestige trim level with the Black Optic Plus package. Very, very attractive looking car that we have for you to film today. And throughout this video, we're going to take a look at all of the features that this vehicle has to offer. First, starting on the exterior, we're going to pop the hood and see what powers the A5. We'll next pop the trunk and see how much storage space we're working with in that Sportback trunk. We'll then get into the interior finally, with starting with the rear seats and ending up in the front seats. You're going to want to make sure to stay tuned to the end of the video, because I'm going to strap this GoPro to my head. We're going to get a POV driving experience for about 10 minutes, see what it's like to drive this A5. But to start off, we'll start with the headlamps here on the outside. Full LED units. We even have some laser bulbs in there, part of the Prestige package, so everything is pretty much fully LED if it's not a laser bulb. We have LED turn signals, LED daytime running lights, all of that good stuff. And then taking a look down here, we have the little square cutouts for the headlight washers. We also have parking sensors that span the front of the bumper, and then a couple more sensors to either side, and these nice little surrounds for the adaptive cruise control. Again, Black Optic package, blacks out the grille and various other elements around the vehicle, as you can see. And we also have the one of 4 cameras for the 360 view camera system on this vehicle. Very nice hood, very strong, aggressive lines on the hood too. And you'll see those strong, aggressive lines throughout the vehicle on pretty much all of the body panels. Down here, super nice wheels with the very nicely accented red brake calipers. It's sized up at 19 inches, and they have that sort of typical Audi blade sort of look to them. Very, very good looking wheels. I think that makes this car. 255/35 size tires too. Up top, we have an oversized sunroof and the shark fin antenna. Then on our blacked out mirror caps, we have the blind spot warning on the inside and also the turn signal on the mirror. We have the keyless go system on all 4 of the door handles, so you just tap here to lock, put your hand behind the handle to unlock. And of course, again, on all 4 door handles. As you can see, this car is pretty loaded up. We have the Prestige trim level, the Black Optic Plus package, and the S-Line interior package, and that pretty much comes out to $61,375 sticker. And back here you can see the Sportback shape, very nice looking, a little bit more stylish than the A4, and a little bit more trunk room than the A4 too. So if you're kind of cross shopping, this would definitely be the more stylish version to the A4. Back here, matching the front, is all LED tail lamps, so you can see the brake lights, turn signals, and everything are LED. We have the parking sensors that span toward the bumper, again, just like the front. More Black Optic elements and a little bit of a lip spoiler, again in black, and the Audi rings also painted black. We have a reversing camera and the trunk release under there with the Quattro badging. And I think, on this channel we've filmed some pretty nice looking A5s over the years, and I think this is personally the best looking one. What do you guys think about the style on this car? Let me know in the comments. So if you're shopping for an A5 Sportback, you'll notice there are 2 different powertrains. One Audi calls the 40 TFSI, and the other the 45 S-Line TFSI. And those will come with 2 different 2-liter turbochargers. So obviously the 40 will have a little bit less horsepower and torque than the 45. So the 40 will have 201 horsepower, 236, versus the 45's 261 and 273 pound-feet of torque. So just a little bit more horsepower with the 45 model, and that'll give you some more sporty styling cues and everything when you choose that engine. We'll get to see how this engine performs out on the road in just a little bit on our test drive. Now, both of those motors are pretty much the same, just a little bit different of a tune to it. They'll also come with the same 7-speed dual clutch transmission, and both will also come standard with Quattro all-wheel drive. Now that we could pop the trunk, you could see where the Sportback gets its name from, since it has the very large sort of trunk door that includes the rear glass, which greatly aids in cargo space. So rather than an A4 having a traditional trunk, this one has a bigger opening, which means more space in the back. That's the advantage to this over the A4. Now, once we get back here, again, lots of space. You have two cargo shades, one that's kind of stationary, one that goes along with the window. Both you can remove. We have some lighting back here and some extra pockets, one over here, one to this side, and we also have the ability to fold down the rear seats. Now, there's no lever back here to fold them down, but once you do, they kind of default in a 60-40 split, but you can also fold down the center portions, kind of like a ski hatch, separately. Some nice all-weather floor liners in this car, and as you can see, metal tie downs for cargo, and once you lift the cargo floor up, you have a spare tire. Some more illumination up top and a couple of buttons, one to close the trunk and lock the vehicle, and one to simply just close the trunk right on down. So this particular A5 Sportback we're working with has the S-Line interior package, which has to do with all of the nice suede that you find throughout the interior, such as on the door panels and on the seats. Now that will replace the normal leather, but you also, you still get the normal, leather accents on the door rests and on the edge of the seats. But I think this really spices up the interior. It also gives you this nice brushed aluminum accents. Also get Bang & Olufsen speakers as part of the Premium Plus trim level, but this Prestige, so of course it'll come with it anyways. But frameless glass on the A5 Sportback too, which is very nice. We have a handle, the window switch, and a little bit of storage down below. And taking a look at our seats, again, more of that nice sport cloth, almost kind of like a houndstooth design. Almost, not quite, but kind of what it reminds me of. You could fold down the seats flat like so with that little lever up top. You can also fold down the pass-through with this little handle up top. That will also fold down flat, and it's also lockable. And then you can also fold down the center armrest with some storage and a couple of cup holders. All right, so we can hop in here. It's nice when you get in the A5 Sportback in the rear, you kind of sink down, you sit nice and low, and you're just along for the ride. There's a couple inches of legroom, pretty good back here for a car of this size. I wouldn't really recommend sitting a third person back here just because there's not a whole lot of knee room, but if you had to in a pinch, you definitely could. We have your own temperature controls back here, as well as heated seats for both the outside seats, two USB-A chargers, I should say, and a 12-volt power outlet. Again, you guys saw the center console back here. Once you fold that up, you have a couple of hand grabs there and some illumination too. And at that point, I think we can head on over to the last segment of our vehicle overview, and that is the front cabin. So again, we have the nice frameless glass for the side windows, and same materials up here, just a few more buttons. You have the two-person memory for the driver's seat and the powered child locks for the rear. Also power folding mirrors, and also their heating as well. A little button down here to release the trunk, and a little bit of storage. On the left of the dash, we have some more of that nice brushed aluminum trim. Your fog lights, all your regular headlight controls, heads-up display controls as well to adjust up and down, back and forth. We also have our gauge dimmer. Down here, we can see on the side of the steering wheel, we have the release for the tilt telescoping function, and a pretty large storage tray. So as you can see, it's kind of the default place to put your owner's manual. See how big it is? Just kind of swallows that right up. So it's a very large storage console right there on the left. We have our hood release and the nice brushed aluminum pedals. Also, pretty cool looking side tray right there with a little S badge. Very nice seat. We have a little S logo up there near the headrest. Speaking of the headrest, it's 4-way adjustable, so up and down, in and out. Same thing with the lumbar, 4-way adjustable, and we also have 2-way in and out adjusting thigh support. Alright, so here's the key for the A5 Sportback, very much like the rest of the Audi keys, with the lock, unlock, trunk release, panic alarm, and these two little buttons on either side. You could pinch if you need to use the physical key. Nice little key slot right here that Audi gives you too, and then you have the push button ignition right up here. So very nice looking steering wheel. We have the sort of dimpled leather up here and the more smooth leather up top and down at the bottom. S logo at the bottom too, and all of your controls for the digital cockpit, and your heated steering wheel, as well as the Bluetooth voice commands. You can also skip different songs over here with this button, and then change your volume with the little roller. Behind the steering wheel, we have some paddle shifters that are mounted to the steering wheel. A couple of stalks too I'd like to mention. Right over here, the turn signals, automatic high beams, and at the end of the stalk right here is where you can turn on and off your lane keep assist. We also have this lower stalk down here for your adaptive cruise control functionalities, and the last one to the right for your wipers. So, kind of entail a couple of different features on the digital cockpit, and we'll kind of just take a look at the main stuff. Pay attention to the buttons that I press to configure the different screens. So right here we have sort of some vehicle information, you know, average and real-time fuel consumption. Then we also have short and long-term memory for kind of like your trip A, trip B. Energy consumption screen, your driver's assistance, which we'll leave up during our test drive so we can see what the lane keep assist looks like with that up. And you can also see your different traffic signs. We move over, we get all of our audio information, and at any time, any screen, you could press the view button to get whatever is in the center a little bit larger. I have a phone screen and our map, which is awesome. Again, at any time, just tap the little button there to expand whatever's in the center. Up here we have a couple of speakers, you know, 2 to either side, and sort of a larger center channel speaker. And because of the Prestige, we have the heads-up display, which will display, you know, various things like navigation directions and your current speed and things like that. Taking a look down here to our main infotainment screen, we have a couple of home screens. I kind of would leave it on this, which will kind of show you what your radio doing, what your radio is doing, what your telephone and what your navigation is doing, which is pretty nice. There you can also swipe from the top. You can get your garage door openers right here, and also your sound settings for the Bang & Olufsen speakers. Very customizability, very good customizability for this vehicle. That's a tongue twister there for me today for some reason. But we have 3D effect, you know, your surround sound system, the subwoofer individual from the bass, and that's pretty much does it for the customizability on the sound system. We have shortcuts over here, so no matter what menu you're in, you can just press, you know, like your radio screen here, the different sources up top. You have the media and phone, and then your navigation screen, which you can input destinations right over here. Phone apps has to do with the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. So once you have a phone plugged in or connected wirelessly, you can just press that button right there. It'll take you right to the Apple CarPlay. We have the vehicle information screen, which you can pull up your drive modes. So we have 4 different drive modes: comfort, auto, dynamic, and individual. Customize a couple of different things in the individual screen. Going back to the vehicle functions, we have a couple of other things I'd like to show you, such as the lighting and visibility, which is on the Prestige. You get a very nice ambient lighting on the inside, just only on the Prestige with the A5, which is interesting. But it gives you a bunch of preset colors. You could change 2 different colors at once, kind of customize what you like. We also have our driver's assistance functions that we could turn on and off as you please. And we also have other things such as your settings for service and things like that. We have our regular system settings over here, general settings, There's sound settings you can activate over here, your Wi-Fi and things like that. Just a bunch of customability with this screen. And then over here we have some other things like weather and messages and news, and you can set up different users. So say if you and your wife are using the car, you know, you can use user number 1, have all of your settings, and user number 2 can have all of your partner's settings. A couple of air vents in between the hazards button. You also have a very nice and simple climate control with the heated seats to either side. Over here we have the temperatures on these little dials, defrosters off and recirculating right there. And we have kind of like a touch sensitive buttons in the center here, so if you kind of rest your finger, it'll give you the menus, and then once you start tapping, that's when it'll start making adjustments. So pretty neat there. A couple of physical buttons below for the drive mode select quickly. And you can also turn on and off your auto start stop, your traction control, as well as your parking sensors and parking camera. You have auto parking as part of the Prestige trim level. And you can also turn the upper screen on and off with that N button. So we'll go ahead and turn on the parking sensors and parking camera so we can see what they look like. You'll kind of always have your top-down view. Over here we can get a bunch of different views. So there's kind of a wide angle front, normal front angle, the top-down, which will replace with the parking sensors. We have the rear view camera, the wide angle rear view, and then the front and rear wheels, so you don't curb those very nice wheels. Stop button right over here with the USB plug-in and a 12-volt power outlet, and then a little rubberized pad here, pens and pencils. A couple of cup holders and a little storage tray right in front of the shifter. Again, 7-speed dual clutch automatic. Pretty much just put it down into drive like so, and once you're in drive you have a couple of different options. You can either bump it down like that, and that'll put the transmission into a sport mode, so faster shifts, and it'll kind of hold the revs a little bit longer. Then you have the manual mode, which you can either shift down here or with the paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Once you pump it back over, we can put it up into reverse, and the backup camera and 360 view will automatically come up, and you have a little P for park. Electronic parking brake down here with the volume knob, and it also doubles as a skipping for your different tracks. And have a nice little center console here with an adjustable height. If you lift that up, we have a USB-C. And with the Prestige package, because of the chip shortage, you know, more Audis were starting to come with the wireless charging pad, but because of the, you know, again, the global chip shortage, only the Prestige models will have the wireless charging pad. Taking a look over on the passenger area, you have a nice little Quattro emblem and a lockable glove box. Plenty of room in there. It's all illuminated with a pen holder and all felt lined. Here we have the visors with a mirror and a light. And up here we have all of the controls for the sunroof and SOS and everything. So we have one control here that will put the sunshade and the glass part of the sunroof back and forth and tilt. So that's pretty neat. And we have various other things like the lighting controls. You can also tap them to go on and off. And a nice frameless auto dimming rear view mirror. So that pretty much does it for all of the features on the A5 Sportback, well, this particular one at least. Let's get it out on the road and see what it's like to drive. All right, let's take the 2023 Audi A5 Sportback for a little test drive. So we're gonna be switching between the comfort and dynamic modes in this video, kind of depending on what sort of road conditions we're on. Speaking of road conditions, we're going to have a nice little test drive route planned for you. It's gonna be about 10 minutes if you're still with us. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a ride down to this back road. We will test out the turning circle in case of you city goers are watching and are just kind of curious on what kind of turning circle to expect. We'll take a look at that. Then we'll get it out onto a sort of more two-lane highway, so get up to 45, 50 miles an hour. See how the car handles those speeds, you know, mainly just check for noises, you know, wind noise, tire noise, things like that, and just kind of overall comfort at that speed. And pretty much for the rest of the video, we're going to be taking a nice long back road. So we have a a pretty big hill at the start of the back road, which we'll get an acceleration test, and we'll also get it out onto the twisty, turny roads of the back roads up in here in New England. We'll see how it handles that. And it'll also be kind of a little bit of a torture test for the suspension, since the roads up here are pretty bad. So we'll get to see what kind of comfort we're working with the suspension. Now, back there with the turning circle, absolutely no issues. It has a really good turning circle, so I have no issues with this car in a city setting. Okay, so we are in rush hour here a little bit. Hopefully we won't get caught up too much with traffic. I think we'll be just fine. Alright, so now that we're on our sort of straight road here, we'll get it up to our cruising speed of 45 miles an hour. And we'll test out the lane keep assist. So you can see it's active with the green lanes. And also if you don't have that screen up there, it'll be kind of below your speed. And once you sort of drift out of your lane, that particular lane will turn red and the car will gently steer itself back into the appropriate lane, which is pretty neat. It's definitely not a jarring lane keep assist. There's some vehicles where will really sort of nudge you back into your lane. This is just a sort of gentle reminder, you're outside of your lane, let me correct that for you. So up at 45 miles an hour, a little bit of tire noise, but that has to do with the pretty large wheels on this vehicle. If you get the 18-inch wheels rather than the 19s, that'll definitely help out. But really not a whole lot of wind noise at all. Sometimes you have issues with wind noise with cars that have the frameless side glass like this car has, but it is very, very quiet in here. Alright, so now we'll pop it down into that dynamic mode. As soon as that happens, you could see the RPMs do change up to a higher RPM. We'll get up to about 25 miles an hour and we'll punch the gas and see what happens. So yeah, very brisk acceleration for the A5 Sportback. 261 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque, as I said before. So that's a pretty good it's pretty good numbers for a car of this size, and you can definitely feel that horsepower and torque, as well as the 7-speed dual clutch transmission reacting lightning fast to that throttle input. So definitely no issues there with the 45 TFSI powertrain for the A5. And we recently just reviewed a Audi Q5 with the same engine, and that was a pretty quick little SUV too, and same exact engine, same transmission under the hood of that Q5 as this A5 has. And A5 is going to weigh a little bit less than the Q5, and it definitely feels quicker. With the smaller output 4-cylinder that the A5 has, I've also driven one of those, and I can tell you that the 201 horsepower that it produces is still no slouch. It's still a pretty quick car. I believe it's a mid-6s 0 to 60, so it's like 6.5 seconds. And so that's no slouch. It's not as fast as this car, but it definitely gets the job done with no issue. So we'll take a right onto this other road here. We'll get a quick taste of how this car handles a corner. It's kind of like a pretty tight corner up here. It's almost like a carousel because the road kind of goes up like this. Let's see if we can test that out with this traffic here. So we'll hit this corner around 30 miles an hour. Yeah, and really no issue at all with the cornering there. You know, it stays relatively flat throughout the corner. And another thing in dynamic mode, it definitely weightens up the steering quite a bit. It's still a pretty light steering even in the dynamic mode, but you can definitely see a difference. This is kind of the bumpiest part of the road. You can see all of the potholes and imperfections in the road. You can hear the bumps, but you know, it's definitely a really solid ride. Not the most comfy suspension in the world, but it's definitely more than doable. But these roads are pretty bad up here in New England, some of these roads. But that's all right. We get to test out the suspension on them. So yeah, I can definitely feel the bumps, you know, not too harsh or anything, but a very, very solid ride. Seats are also very comfortable. So there's sort of two different styles of seats that you can get with the A5, that sort of more comfort-oriented base seats, and then the sport seats, which I actually find that the sport seats are a bit more comfier than the normal comfort seats, which is kind of counterintuitive, I know, but just a lot more range of customability with the sport seats, you know, for the thigh extensions, especially for me. You know, when I go on longer trips, my legs tend to get a little bit tired, you know, after a couple hours of driving. And I find with cars with the leg extensions, you know, my legs don't really feel, you know, sore after driving them for an hour, you know, a couple hours or so. So that's something to keep in mind too. But just a bit more support both on the bottom and on the top, you know, as far as lateral support. So it just kind of hugs you in a little bit better, which is more comfortable for me, may not be more comfortable for you. So my suggestion would be to go to your local dealer. Hopefully they have two A5s with the comfort seat and the sport seat, so that you could pick the more the seat that's best suited for yourself, I should say. But yeah, very quiet ride, pretty comfortable as well. And the cloth on these seats, I didn't really say it's a cloth, I should say it's a suede, definitely helps out too if you plan on tracking the car. You know, a lot of people probably, you know, track an A5 Sportback, but you know, that's mainly why they put suede seats in a car, so it kind of, you know, it's less slippery than riding around in leather seats on the racetrack. Alright, so we'll give it one more, you know, half throttle acceleration up the hill here. Alrighty, so that pretty much concludes the test drive and pretty much the whole video here on the 2023 Audi A5 Sportback. Thank you for joining us here on Tide Drives, and I also hope you stick with us here for more videos just like this one in the future.